Good morning, everybody. Just getting things dialed up in the studio. A little rusty. It's been a few days since I've been in studio. Glad to see folks jumping in here.
Breakdown.
Trying to get the purple pill functioning. Had to reset my phone for the purple pill activity. It's coming up. Good morning there, Kyle.
Breakdown. Instrumental section.
This is my favorite part. Okay, purple pill should be coming online. Come on, baby. You can do it. Yay, it's working. Whoop, whoop. Before the intro music faded out. Yay. Don't hesitate to throw a speaker request in there, Mr. Kyle. It's been a bit since we chatted.
Breakdown collection. Instrumental section.
Good morning. What an interesting news week we had this week. Apparently, the Department of War has finally admitted that they have directed energy weapons. Go figure. It's almost like I've been saying that for 6 years.
Good morning, brother.
Good morning, sir. How you doing today?
Oh, we're vibing on a high level. We got prayers coming towards us, and we got prayers sending out. So we're in full effect today, baby.
Nice.
Feeling like $1 million.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I've been rather busy this week, which is a wonderful thing, and my inbox is basically flooded because of this Department of War disclosure, which this is fantastic. I feel very victorious. It just is what it is. I jumped into some spaces last night and was just having a lot of fun. I'm sure you've seen for a while, Kyle, that, everybody's been slamming me. Like, what the hell could he know? He's just a plumber. Well, guess which plumber was 100% right. And now everybody's acting like, oh, well, we knew this all along. Well, apparently they knew it all along, except for when they were communicating with me about it, and we're like, you're full of crap. So he who laughs last laughs hardest. I am in hearty chuckle mode.
Yeah, I mean, you had people vying for you on the information side. We had people vying for you on the prayer warrior side. So
for sure,
were not without backup.
That is true.
Absolutely.
Yes,
there was,
absolutely. But those are diamonds in the rough, Kyle.
Made some statements in the past that need to be closely examined, 100%.
Absolutely. I will not discount that there are diamonds in the rough, so to say. But as you've observed in these social circles, the vast majority of people, I wouldn't even go so far to say we're working against me, they were just doing their best to ignore me, because that's about all they could do, because the facts of the matter are, I was right, directed energy weapons platforms do exist, are being scaled up, which is what I've been saying. So I can't be ignored. As a reminder, the system at the South Pole Station is being scaled up as we speak. It's being increased tenfold in size. So what the Department of War stated backs up what I testified about in two skiffs. They are now confirming the information that I've made public. It's a beautiful day.
I mean, it's just interesting. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. I was gonna say it's interesting to see, like this has been like a thing for, like you said. I mean, you've been talking about it for 6 years, but it's probably been a thing, like you said, for decades. And it's just interesting why the timing now. You know what I mean? And it just, to me, right? If you're going to release this publicly, it states that either your enemies have found out, or like you've already figured out the fix to it, as right, the defense for it for your own side. So
I think they've always had the defense, like you said. They don't move anything out offensively until they have a defensive mechanism. I, unfortunately, am often the bearer of bad news. The only reason that I think that they would go public now is they fully anticipate greater usage that will no longer be able to be denied, that they will go from a directed energy weapons Cold War situation where all of these factions have been operating behind the veil for many decades, and now it's just going to be amped up into hot activity that the public is going to witness. I think of it like what was that scene in Star Wars where he's like, now you will witness the full power of the like that's all that's going to happen, is we're just going to be privy to shit we've never fucking seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really worried about the like third parties who are going to get hit by this shit that have nothing to do with, whatever's going on. It's like those people are man. I worry for the people, especially in like very populated areas or very isolated areas. I think there's kind of a sweet spot you can find in the middle where there's like seems to be less, I don't know, focus in those areas. But the general population, is 100% what I'm worried about. Like they might not just see this, like the Maduro thing. They might also have it partially done to them because they're in proximity to certain operations, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And then even more so concerning is what type of collateral damage occurs from the application of these weapons. We've up until this point heard the term AHI being applied, anomalous health incidents. I would suggest that that's the category of folks that are in the collateral damage category. So it's going to be amped up.
Far as to say, like along with those, right? The anonymous or the anomalous health incidences. You also have like I believe that these technologies also affect people like differently depending on the structure of their brain, right? So like a Down syndrome person would have a different reaction than a fully functioning correctly formed human mind. So I think that we're going to see an increase, like we have already been seeing, in mental health decline. It's going to be interesting to see what the fuck goes on, because this
Absolutely
is going to affect things.
I do believe 100%. That when it comes to the directed energy weapon systems, those that do function in the category, because again, these are very multifaceted systems. There are the umbrella term directed energy weapons covers a broad spectrum of stuff. Some of that stuff would be in the category of cognitive warfare. And yes, it will impact people differently. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to go along with like the psychological operations side of things, like if you're going to be like a passive observer to, like, let's say they're making a psychological operation using the internet, right? Like they're trying to spread it through a certain like section of the internet, whether that be gamers or it be fucking makeup artists or whatever, you know, whatever the subject matter is. I have a worry for the, like you said, the sort of the lower end of the spectrum. How are they going to be able to fully grasp and take in what has just hit them? You know, if I get hit by a bullet, it doesn't matter whether I'm Down syndrome or I'm just a normal guy, right? You're going to know immediately the effects of that, and
Yep.
you're hopefully going to have been trained on, like, hey, I need to call someone, or I need to immediately cover up the wound, right? Like I need to cut off the circulation, right? Like so like what happens when these wounds are, like you said, not so visible, right? That's the worrisome part for me, for the long-term legal issues that go along with this technology.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I've been saying is like the Havana syndrome symptoms list is effectively the wounds from these weapons, and we have a modern day walking wounded, both from direct fire, from collateral damage, and yeah, it's not bullet holes and broken limbs, and it affects people differently. So, you know, as I've been suggesting, people need to become familiar with these symptoms so that they can start, self-diagnosing and or paying attention to those around them. Truly, that's the only way for people to have any appreciation of the activity is by observing these differences. And it's not like even like a bullet hole where the impact is immediate, right? I pull a trigger, I shoot you in the arm, you have a hole, it's immediately known. As you were saying before, you know, this stuff affects people differently. So some people may, let's say immediately freak out with massive symptoms. Other people, it may take more time for the symptoms to show up. So it's could be more cumulative.
Yeah, like you don't immediately get hit with a weapon and start like having a cardiac seizure or something like you said. Like, and some of these, I think that we're going to see like comorbidities is going to be a huge thing with this. Like, and I just don't know how you're going to work it out with like the general public's understanding of how insurance works or anything like that. If this is going to affect you 10, 15 years down the line, how do they even plan for that, you know? Like on a general population level of just the United States, let alone the rest of the world.
Yeah, this is a super complex beast of a topic to engage. And, you know, it goes, again, back to that whole plausible deniability situation, is that I think even I sadly, I think what they'll try to do is deny the collateral damage aspect for decades. They're gonna roll this out and talk about how these, you know, like they did with like smart bombs back in the day. They tried to convince everyone that it's like super precision targeting, and if we want to drop a missile on that one dude's head, we can do that, and it's great because it reduces collateral damage. And we've all heard those stories, but in hindsight now, after decades of application of smart bombs, what we've learned is there's tons of collateral damage that they just try to cover up. And that's just through full-blown denial. So now when we have these invisible systems, It's going to change everything when it comes to plausible deniability. There's going to be a lot of collateral damage, people with the AHI, the Havana syndrome symptoms, and there's just going to be a full court press to deny that these people were impacted by these systems, because it's next to impossible to prove that, some system from halfway around the planet, was targeting an individual, 3 houses over from you. And you got like strafed by some microwave beam. How the fuck do you prove that to anyone? Especially when the targeting of that guy 3 houses away. Oh, hold on, my mute button got weird. Especially when that person that's, targeted 3 houses away is some super secret squirrel operation that they're going to deny that even went on.
Yeah, like contractors using contractors, like this incestuous relationship that these contractors have with each other. It's next level, and it's weird, and it's manipulative and slimy, and I don't know, man. The private sector confuses the hell out of me. I have no idea. I'm not involved in that at all, let alone the military aspect. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. The technology is, like you said, it's going to lead to, like, we're going to see, if we think like, the existence of like, do you remember when they had lead paint on the houses and all that?
I used to work at a paint store.
Be like, it's going to be like that times 10. Like, it's going to be like, the damages are going to be times 10.
I think we should be marketing lead paint again. Triple coat your walls, folks.
Nah, absolutely. But you know what I mean? Like asbestos, or like you remember those commercials like you were talking about, joking about the other day. Like,
oh, yeah. Oh, my God. You're so right. That is foreshadowing. There's going to be law firms out there, and people are going to call them like charlatan law firms at first. But yeah, it's going to be like, do you think that you've been negatively impacted by directed energy weapons? Has anybody in your family or immediate area been the subject of AHI attacks? Do you have fatigue? Are you having skin issues? Call now at Do We Cheat 'Em and How? Yeah, there's going to be ambulance chasers for sure, first and foremost. And don't get me wrong, that's just the way it's going to be. There's going to be the first wave of lawyers that are like, let's get everybody we can in a class action lawsuit. And then what we'll find is that was some CIA law firm just to get all of the names of the people that are first popping up that are cognizant of the problem. Then they'll figure out how to lose the case for them and to say that nothing, what it turns out, nothing can be proven. Yeah, it's going to be a wild double-edged sword swinging for a while. We're here to help. It makes me think of that old Ronald Reagan joke, like, knock, knock, who's there?
The 4 words you never want to hear. A government employee say.
Yeah, we're the government. We're here to help. Oh,
What's up, Gene? I see you in listener. How's it going, buddy?
Good morning, Mr. Sticko.
I've seen Lee around. What's up, not Phil Schneider?
Yeah, we got some folks in here that I've seen around before. It's very nice. I had a little hiatus. Glad to see that some folks jumped back in. Coffee Talk is amazing. I slept in a little late today, which is why I started the space late. It was I slept until I think 6:30 a.m. and I cannot even begin to tell you. I can't even remember the last time I slept that late. It's got to be many years. But that's late for me.
Well, I mean, well-deserved sleep, man. Like the last week was pretty wild, and I'm glad you it worked out in the way that it did, and that's That's good for you, man. I'm happy to see you calling out the people who are calling you out, and
Oh yeah,
just being real about it, man. Be like, hey, yeah, you can come
absolutely.
back and you can apologize. There's room for
Absolutely.
that.
Anybody that treated me like a piece of shit up until this point, if they want to apologize, that's great. Game. Everybody makes mistakes. It's the measure of the man how you make corrections. Anybody that's been shitting on me up until this point that does not want to apologize, I'm coming out guns blazing. You can all go fuck yourselves. They have no leg to stand on anymore. But we do have Mr. Sticko here with his hand up. So good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
Good. Good morning. Welcome back. As I wrote during the week, I was going through coffee talk withdrawal. I kept getting on every day. I was addicted to every day. I'm getting on looking for you.
Sorry about that, man. Yeah, just a super busy week, fortunately.
Good.
I'm keeping busy, and then the other aspect of the rough week that I had was earlier in the week I took a hard spill on the ice and destroyed my left ankle.
Oh man, yeah. Right now,
I'm on the mend, Gene. I mean, I'm a stout German Irishman. I can take a licking and keep on ticking. It's just one, it's just. It was a week of suffering. I had things that I had to get done, and it's just sometimes it just sucks when you're like, wow, I'm pretty fucked right now, but you just got to keep doing what you got to do.
I hear you. Well, at least I was looking to make sure we had signs of life at least.
Yeah. I was still throwing up some posts here and there to let folks know I wasn't dead.
Good.
And, for all the folks out there that, are like, I could have immediately, been on the internet with pictures of my ankle and been like, oh, remember, I need some clickbait engagement. I'm dying over here. But yeah, I don't want to jinx myself. So knock on wood, I'm doing a hell of a lot better than a few days ago. Yeah. Sometimes shit hurts so bad where you just like, man, it'd be cool if I just dropped dead right now.
So as long as we don't see you, so when we see you posting something that says send prayers, then we know you're under duress. Yeah,
I don't, something, I think the only time I've posted stuff where I said things like send prayers and positive intentions was for when the dog was all fucked up and I felt bad, like taking the dog for a walk and she was all gimpy. That I tried to direct some positive intentions. For me, I'm, just sucking down ibuprofen and, gimping along. But I have a couple of days in a row here, so I'll probably do another coffee talk again tomorrow. And I do plan on icing up my leg. I think what I'll probably do is like a 5-gallon bucket with some ice cold water in there and some ice and just, submerge my foot down in that until the heated swelling from my leg boils the water.
Well, I was looking for you on a Wednesday morning. I had a chance to meet Science Bob in person.
Oh, that's right. You went to that event.
Yeah, so I was so excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
Got a few minutes to chat with him, and nothing like Science Bob.
There you go. And it's nice to meet folks in real life to get a firmer grip on who they are. So that's a beautiful thing. So what do you think about this Department of War disclosure, Gene? Guess what? We do have directed energy weapons.
Well, again, I think I'm in your boat. That it was like, okay, thanks, right? Okay, thanks, finally. But I was very happy about that for you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big win for me. I am super stoked. I'm not gonna lie in the slightest. I am stoked that this got out. It makes my what I've previously said was an uphill battle. This levels it off a bunch. It is not as steep a grade anymore. So that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I love you're not about the I told you so.
Oh, no, I
You're
totally
all
am,
for-
Gene.
You're all for it.
I am.
And you deserve that victory.
I totally am. To my naysayers, I don't know when you just jumped in here or not, but all the people that have been douchebags to me up until this point can apologize. That's cool. I'll be gracious. But if they're going to continue to fire from the direction they're firing from, I will be happy to continue to keep them in the categories of enemies of my truth. And I don't have to be nice to my enemies. I'm not here to fuck around and make fake friends. If people want to be scumbags, I can treat them accordingly. I'm way cool with that.
I think what you'll probably find is silence.
Yes, is that they will have to redouble their efforts to ignore me now.
Luckily, you have plenty of other flaws they can focus in on.
They love trying that one. Yep. I'm the lazy guy because I'm unemployed. That one's been thrown at my feet. But yet I'm unemployed not by choice. And the job that I was removed from prematurely was a job that I was working 7 days a week, 84 hours a week in the Arctic in some of the harshest conditions that other people would be crying their fucking eyes out. But I'm lazy, Gene. Did you see that video, Gene, of Doyon Rig 26 falling over?
I did. I haven't had a chance yet to sort of go externally and look for the information, what happened with it.
Yeah, so that rig was within eyeshot of one of the last camps that I was working at. Where it collapsed was one of the pads that I used to work at, and that's literally the area that I worked in. So that's.
Does it look like the guide wires broke or something, or they were in the midst of taking it down or doing something? Do you know?
They were transiting it, Gene. It was moving to a different location, and it appears from the short video clip, I can't tell precisely, it looks like either A, they steered that thing off the road by accident, which would be a total fuck up, or that the gravel road may have just simply collapsed under the weight of the beast. I mean, the thing's huge, like 10 million pounds. But I'm sure Conoco's flipping out now that a $4 billion piece of equipment fell over.
Yeah. Not exactly easy to replace.
No. And what a debacle. I'm sure you can appreciate.
Guys, I was AFK talking to the real life family. What was that? I did hear my name get mentioned.
Oh, no, it wasn't. We were talking about rigs and oil field stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
No worries.
We were just discussing actually the
power of prayer.
Yeah, they were talking about the power of prayer.
Oh.
They're prayer warriors, so.
No worries. Keep those prayers coming. Pray for my left ankle. But yeah, Gene, I'm sure you can imagine the logistics of that environment, how detrimental this is. Because all that road time, there's already things scheduled for move this rig here, do this, that, blah, blah, blah. And then you have all the hands that are attached. Kill your mic, Kyle. There we go. All the hands that are attached to that, all the support staff, this is a big wrench in the system of activity that's going on up there.
Yeah. And getting a new rig. I mean, that's because there's, for again, everyone else, there's a daily rig count, and it is, I don't know, is it Baker Hughes that publishes it? I mean, because it's essentially the global map of all the rigs that are available and where they're used, and when they know a rig is going to be moved, it's going to be moved somewhere else. So it's not like there's a parking lot of these things.
Right.
And you just call and say, oh, one tipped over. Can you send one that's sitting there doing nothing. The industry manages those to constantly be at use. So something like this, the wrench that it throws in
They don't like
huge.
keeping a shelf with extra 1-inch IPS black 90s available at $6.90. They certainly aren't going to keep a spare $4 billion rig sitting in the yard at the ready.
Yeah, exactly. So there's
Yeah.
like I wrote, and it's the understatement of the year, but bad day at the office.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how many people just got fired on the spot just for that's what we do. Like, your company just lost every contract for the next 5 years. Your company just lost every contract for the next 2 years. You're getting rid of that guy, that guy, that guy. The entire road crew that built the road, they're out. We're never using you ever again. Like, there's all of that going on right now. The amount of finger pointing that must be going on, it has to be at like levels unseen before in the history of the world.
Eric, and now all the atheists that work within there trying to define this as an act of God. Force majeure, right? we said, hallelujah, Lord.
Yeah.
Why'd you do this to me? Force majeure.
Yeah, absolutely. I had seen a rig previously where they did get some road collapse, but my mute button got weird. What's going on?
No, do they have and I'm thinking like the northern tier states, they have that what the hell is it called, that period of time when because of the ice conditions on roads, they don't allow heavy machinery movements during a certain window of time because of exactly that the water under the roads freezes, it weakens the integrity of the road. So they do that. It's and there's a term for it. It's just slipping my mind.
I think they call it breakup
something
season.
heaves. They call it like there's a word for it when the road breaks.
Frost heaves are when it actually occurs.
Frost heaves, yeah.
But the season up here, they call it breakup season. Is when we're when winter's transitioning to spring and the water's moving around. It's totally more precarious. I'm not completely sure of those windows, but this is the dead of winter. So this is when all the big moves occur, both on the gravel road system and then also manufactured ice roads. So most of the movement of materials occurs in the wintertime across the North Slope on the tundra, because the ice roads get manufactured to make connecting points to things that don't exist in the summertime. So this is going to screw that all up.
Right, and it makes everybody else. I mean, if it is something like that, then it makes everybody else go back to square one and evaluate the infrastructure.
Oh hell yeah! There's going to be a lot of reevaluating, for sure. Yeah, they're going to have to. They're going to assess every mile of gravel road. There's going to be like pressure testing, density, like all kinds of shenanigans are going to happen.
Yeah. So root cause analysis becomes the take a shot when you hear it game this for the next month.
Yeah. I picture that Spider-Man circle meme that I've seen with the finger pointing in every direction, but with 37 different Spider-Men.
So there's I went to a craft brewery one time, and they had a beer that was named Tastes Like a Safety Meeting.
That's a good one.
I was thinking, yeah, we gotta find that so I can ship it out to people.
You crack open the can.
I bet it was a strong brew.
You crack open the can, and it the sound of some knucklehead asking too many questions to extend the meeting comes out of the can. But what about? Oh. Too funny. Yeah, I thought you'd get a kick out of that rig collapse, Gene. I don't know. I don't even know if that's even happened before. where the, just one completely fell over.
Yeah, I mean I think the outside of hurricanes, I mean that's the first one that just kind of I've seen in that scenario.
Oh, geez, I didn't even think a hurricane could blow one over. I just figured they were too hardy.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's rare. And for it to again fall like that, I've seen them tip, go out of place, even the offshore. But yeah, I think right, just when you think you've seen it all.
Yep, I remember seeing one rig near a facility that I was at where they did get some collapse of the gravel road, and the rig got a bit askew, which was quite the debacle at the time. But they mitigated it. So, I mean, yeah, wild stuff. So who knows what I was, like I mentioned earlier, a bit busy this week. When exactly did the Department of War come out with this statement? And was it on, like, did it hit any of the mainstream news, or is it just stuff that I'm seeing randomly posted in social media circles?
They put it out on actual Department of War, so it's out there. Like, yeah, shit's crazy. I do have a question though, because you got my brain going about oil rigs and shit now. Like, you're a plumber, so I guess you would. I'm assuming you've worked on them. Like, where does the sewage go? I gotta know. Do
holding
we just
tanks.
stuff it in a box under the ocean, or do
No.
we?
There's holding
fly it
tanks.
off?
There's holding tanks and honey
Gotcha.
trucks that come suck it out and transfer it. And then they're up on the slope. There are waste treatment facilities. And then, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, it's processed to a point where I think the term is it becomes effluent. And then they use it to inject down hole, and it becomes part of the process. Gene might know more about that. I'm not sure.
No, you're spot on. I mean, I've seen it go into tanks, or they just create a retaining pond that's lined, and it's otherwise exactly how you described. Spot on.
Yeah, I think where we're at, it all goes down
so
hole.
it's taken off facility. That makes sense. But the reusage, recycling of that is interesting. That you said it can sometimes be used as like a part of the oil recovery and refinery.
Yeah, they have what they call mud plants and drilling mud and different fluids that are used to inject down hole into the well, and that's part of the process of extracting the oil. So it's my understanding that the waste gets treated to the point that they title it effluent, and then the effluent gets used to mix into the drilling fluids.
That's fascinating. As much as I hate the reduce, reuse, recycle people, some of that shit does have some validity to it, right? Like the way it can feed back into systems like that is fascinating to me in different ways. Like you said, effluent. I'm not familiar with the term, but I'm assuming it probably means something to do with like it's lost its like various. Like different minerals and shit like that would be in it, and then like they use that towards the process.
Yeah, I mean, even in my mind's eye, I like the idea of like, being concerned. Like, I mean, we're human beings, right? So our waste is the same as every other animal, Mother Nature's waste. I mean, the area that I worked at in the oil fields, I mean, a caribou herd can go by with like tens of thousands of caribou that are shitting and pissing everywhere. And that's nature, and it's great. But heaven forbid, a rig hand takes a leak on the gravel pad. Now all of a sudden there's like, oh my God, you're ruining the environment. And you're like, you've got to be kidding me. So as far as I'm concerned, pumping human shit and piss down hole, I don't give a flying fuck if it's treated. I mean, that's where my brain goes. It's like, just, yeah, if you can use it, I mean, I don't want to step in human poop. So if you can inject it 16 miles down into the ground and it's helpful, like, by all means.
Damn, I would not want to be someone living below the earth right now. Maybe that's why they're all pissed at us, guys. Maybe the ultra-terrestrials are pissed because we're shitting down there.
Oh my God, that would be a really funny movie if that's exactly the problem, is that it's because of the rig hands squirting crap down into the hollow earth beings. I love that idea.
We've done disclosure now. It's over. We can pack our bags.
What could possibly be more agitating if you're just like sitting on your couch watching some Netflix and all of a sudden some pipe bores into your living room and starts spraying feces everywhere? I mean, I'd be pretty mad too. So that might be my favorite thought so far for 2026. The Kyle theory of the global debacle with the inner earthlings. That would drive men to war.
That gives a new meaning to the term "shit hit the fan."
Yeah, right. It's the ceiling fan of the inner earthers. We must kill the surface dwellers.
You've got Natalia laughing, choking on her lunch over there.
That's fantastic.
Out of the couch.
I mean, she would be mad if the pipe just bored in through the ceiling of where you guys were at, and you got a ceiling fan, Gene. Would that be problematic if there was just high pressure feces spraying into the living room?
She goes, Eric, you heard it live. She goes mental when the fire alarm goes off.
Yeah, nobody likes when the stoppage backs up and you're getting like 6, 7, 8 inches of sewage in the living room.
Yeah, but I mean that whole the whole system itself. And I think that's such a great example of how it really does use everything, and monetizes everything, because again that whole process of taking it from the pad, that's another company that's doing that and then selling that back. And, they make a buck off of everything every step of the way.
Yeah, those mud plants, man, what it takes to put product through them. I mean, I've heard numbers, Gene, you may know more, but all the different drilling fluid products that they mix together in the mud plants. Like, I've heard crazy numbers of what the product in some of those, in a single mud box goes for. And those mud boxes are stacked up. I mean, there's thousands of them surrounding the mud plant for the operators to blend together to get the called for mix. And yeah, it's off the wall. I oftentimes, I have no idea how these oil companies make money when I see the cost on the front end for what they're doing. It bewilders my brain to figure out how much money has to be spent, to make a nickel per gallon at the pump.
Yeah, I mean, and working in the industry, that's what I'd always tell people, as I was helping out with other businesses and people I'm like, don't ask me about money. I became, my business fiscal education came out of the oil and gas industry. And so my perception of stuff is way off. I talked about, if it's not a $50 million problem, nobody wants to hear about it.
Yep.
That I could be $20-30 million off of this and that. And that was phenomenal. That was, advanced mathematics I seem to have done, and I could still be $30 million off.
Now, I'm just curious, Gene. So, imagine, if you will, that this rig debacle that you saw the video from, so it was Conoco officially. You worked for Shell. So now I just wonder, like, if this was a Shell-owned rig, would this debacle have activated any action from the department that you were in?
Not unless there was some indication that there was sabotage.
Gotcha.
That it was adversarial in some way.
Okay.
So the company would deploy their emergency response team to go out and start doing all the initial assessments and things like that.
Gotcha.
So if they found, a guide wire that was broke in a way that it shouldn't have been broke, then would be brought in. I had a oil tanker that was filling up from an offshore buoy, a single point mooring, and the hawser broke. And that when the hawser broke, that's the rope connecting the ship to the buoy. It was done in such a way that was suspicious, and there was intelligence of Russian operations that were, in intent to disrupt something somewhere. So when that happened, we were one of the first ones, out there, because we started securing things as evidence that would otherwise.
Gotcha. I see. I find this so interesting because even just this limited conversation we're having presupposes that these activities occur or your department wouldn't exist. And I've been trying to tell folks that, it's one thing to think of nation states in the throes of espionage and attacking each other, but I don't think most people appreciate that corporations are in these types of battles also.
Yeah. And, so in that scenario, Northern Slope and all the rest of it, so top two things that would come to mind is either it is a political actor, a state actor that is trying to disrupt the business operations, or the extreme environmentalist activists disrupting something to make a point, to say, see how dangerous this is, to cause a spill.
Oh, gotcha.
Those things happen.
Yep. I'm thinking hypothetically, even, I assume Conoco has a competitor up in the North Slope that would like Conoco's contracts. Theoretically, if that company went out and messed with the road, did something to undermine its integrity, I mean, I see that as a potential to consider, right? If that would be possible, right? Somebody again, if this was Shell and your department, if all of a sudden they showed up and they're like, Gene, guess what? Our competitor had a crew out there at that exact spot 2 days before this event occurred, and we have pictures and video, and it looks like they're doing something different than what we were told they would be doing, and it looks like that activity may have negatively impacted the integrity of the road. Like, those things could occur.
Yeah, absolutely. And all this work, these scenarios, that's what you just described as one risk/threat scenario. All of those would, we would identify in advance. We would identify there's just a local nearby community that does not like the presence of the oil workers here, does not like, the increased presence. They don't like that when, there's a workover done, there's another 5,000 workers suddenly who are a resource on their own gas stations and supermarkets and things like that. We'd have that list sort of generated early. We would set our measures, our security program, based on the different likelihoods of each one of those scenarios, and then you adjust accordingly along the way. So, in the same way, it just could have been, I don't think that didn't look like an area, there's a community nearby, but there just might be hunters that didn't like what was there. And they said, oh, we dig up this, do that, we'll mess them up and not have them present. It could be any of those things, but that's like the upfront work you want to look at before the operation's set up, and then monitor, as it's ongoing.
Yeah, it's my understanding, I believe the closest village would be a place called Nuiqsut, which kind of didn't exist until Conoco needed a local presence to negotiate with. So the town was kind of manufactured to exist in an area so that Conoco could get approval from the locals. One of them weird circumstances that I'm sure you're probably somewhat familiar with. So that village is kind of dependent on the existence of Conoco. Like if Conoco pulled out, I don't think anybody would want to live there anymore. They're subsidized, I guess, might be the appropriate term. That a lot of their world is provided through Conoco funding.
Yep. Yeah, not uncommon. I mean, I saw it in I saw it in places they built libraries and flew in thousands of books, and it was like a 95% illiteracy rate. And people were like, well, we had to put infrastructure in. We had to build something for the community.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, that's really common up here is that the oil companies build all the schools in the remote villages.
Yeah.
Just straight up. It's like it's almost just like a given. Like, oh, you want to talk and negotiate with us? Well, we should probably do that in the new school. And then Conoco will be like, what new school? And then the villagers are like,
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, schools, libraries, hospitals.
Yes. Yep. And then they got to get them staffed, all of that stuff. I got mandatorily volunteered one time. The company that I was with, I got sent over to paint the school. And it was so funny because I forget which oil company was providing the paint and sending us over there and flipping the bill. But I showed up. You'll get a kick out of this one, Gene. I showed up and there was a full-blown camera crew there because the oil company, yes, they were going to fund the activity, but they were not going to miss the public relations opportunity to, promote, look what we did. We here at Big Oil provided the paint and the labor, and we're painting the school. So I show up, and there's this whole camera crew following me around as I'm painting the building, and I had to sign a release, and this was one of my favorite things in my life. It said on it that it was a release for modeling. So I signed that. So, Gene, I am officially, as of that event, I am now a model.
You are.
I'm a model.
A professional model.
I am a professional model. I have the paperwork to prove it. So, as many folks know out there, I've been on the balls of my ass for a little while. So if you need any, if you have any modeling work, I'm your guy.
Add it to your bio.
Yep.
Don't waste them. But you know what pisses me off about that story, Eric, and them sending the camera crew. I did a lot of very interesting things for oil companies, but they never wanted anybody following me around on camera.
Well, Gene, you're just not at the level of model that I am.
I wasn't
Obviously,
model.
This is a testament to my fantastic looks.
Yeah, you were a camera. I must just have the face for radio, as they say.
There you go. You have the voice. If they had, they should have had you doing, commercials for them. Hi, my name's Gene Sticko. You should use Shell Oil.
And I did feel we drove down to DC from Boston, and I did only stop at Shell stations. I still have that thing.
Look at you, company guy.
I am.
You don't go to BP ever. Probably the BP guys would think they're doing sabotage stuff. Like, he's not really disassociated from that company. We got Gene on camera at BP. He went into the men's room. Red team go. Red team go.
I'm still holding Deepwater Horizon against them.
Oh man. I see we got the Gnostic astronaut here as a listener as well. Good morning, Mr. Adkins. I hope everything's well in your world. I imagine that you were a bit giddy as well this week when the Department of War went public. It's we've turned a page into a new chapter of reality, which I think is fantastic. It's bittersweet because the news that this stuff exists just opens up a lot more questions than it does give answers. it provides an avenue for more problems than it does benefits. And but at the very least, it makes the conversation more tangible for folks that previously might have been doubters. So welcome to the speaker panel. And I'm curious, what was your reaction to the news this week?
Morning, Eric. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Oh, great. Yeah, I was surprised. I thought for sure I'd see you, the next day or so on Redacted or Alex Jones, or that someone would want to pick your brain about it. But so I was not surprised, obviously, because I'm confident they exist. But I am interested. I really follow the Middle East stuff pretty closely. And with everything shaping up for Iran right now, I wonder, I assume that's strategic. And I'm wondering, what type of things do you think, can you imagine that they could use direct energy weapons for, like in a practical way, if they do decide to go forward with this Iran deal?
Oh, as far as I said earlier, I do believe the reason that this was brought more into the public light is I think we're going to shift gears from what I would say would be a decades-long directed energy weapons Cold War. We're going to very rapidly move into a directed energy weapons hot war. And the answer to your question, I'm gonna go back to George Senior Bush back when we went from Desert Shield to Desert Storm, and quoting Georgie Boy, watch and learn is going to be what's going to happen. Is that all of the things that I have suggested and more that we can't even possibly have imagined is, I believe, about to be released publicly. So, they've been conditioning us with statements from Trump about, we have the most powerful weapons that you can't even imagine. We're about to get a show.
Is there anything you're expecting to see?
Everything that you and I have discussed, we're gonna see laser beams. There's gonna be what they're now referring to as sonic weapons. I believe earthquake induction will be used, but still denied. The full gamut. I mean, I think everything in the arsenal is going to start to be applied, and standard socio-political environments, they're going to try to use these things to leverage advantage. That's what war is. I think of Major Smedley Butler back in the day, who stopped the coup in the U.S. that was festering, but he wrote a book that all war is a racket.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting to see how this is going to, I guess we're in uncharted territory.
Very much so.
How much are they going to decide to reveal, and of all the whatever tech they have that's been hidden, and how much do they want to still keep up their sleeve? So I'm really interested. Yeah. I have a few family members that basically work for Israel, like Zionist type organizations. And all I've ever heard was stuff about Israel for 20 years. And my brother's been there 80 times and knows Israeli generals and all of this stuff. And actually, my brother was there when Iran was shooting missiles at them the first time in April of 2024. And I'm pleading with him. I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. He's like, oh, no, it's fine. And, but anyways.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a hotbed of activity where, I think many systems will be applied, but most of them will not be discussed in specificity, and all activity will be suggested to be caused by a small fistful of items that they'll openly discuss, as if those systems alone are being used and responsible for all of the activities that they A, do admit to, and then B, there'll be a lot of situations where things are done and they'll still be in full denial that it had anything to do
Of course.
with man-made intention. You know, if an earthquake happens to rock the capital of Iran right before an invasion, they're not going to say we made that happen. They'll just say it was a wonderful coincidence.
Oh, yeah, no, that's true. I know they do say they have their new version of the Iron Dome with the laser ready to go. So that'll be interesting to see how well that works.
Yeah, and that's lasers. Raytheon invented the microwave in I don't know, the fucking 40s, right? Raytheon's a weapons contractor. It's a microwave, right? If you put electronics in your microwave right now, Chad, and you microwaved your electronics, what happens to them?
They spark.
Right? It's detrimental. So now if you take a microwave beam and fire it at electronics, what happens to it?
Wow. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
So you think that they didn't know this way back then?
I know.
Are we to believe that microwave energy beams have not been being used since the creation of the microwave beam?
Yes. No, that's true.
So,
That's
I mean,
true.
that I would say that weapon's been used silently, quiet weapons for silent wars. That's been an ongoing activity for, I don't know, we're getting close to 100 years. We're approaching 100 years of secret microwave directed energy weapon systems.
Yes, that's insane, isn't it?
It is.
Boy. Oh, yeah.
Because the technology literally that technology has been available for that use from its origin point. We would be very naive to think that nobody wielded that as a weapon. We've just been heating up TV dinners with it.
Well, and you think, well, what does Iran have? I mean, I know
The
a guy
same.
who well, exactly. There are a lot of smart people all over the world, not just in the Western countries.
Right.
And some people, I know a guy who's actually a scientist type. He's a genius from Pakistan. And he's like, people have no idea how Iran and other places don't have limits placed on their scientists like they do in the Western world. And they do a lot of stuff over there we're not aware of.
One of the things that concerned me about my time at the South Pole Station and my crew was that, as I've suggested, I believe there's 3 directed energy weapons systems there that we were potentially using offensively. Okay, if we were doing that under the umbrella of plausible deniability, oh, it's science, well, if we're firing that at other people, I believe they would reserve the right to fire back with their systems. So not only do I believe there is a detriment to the personnel at the facility from just simply being in proximity to the systems during their operation, I believe there's a high potential that those that we were being offensive against would have had no problem firing back at us, and that puts me and my crew in the crossfire, basically. But how do I prove that when these weapons provide pretty much 1,000% plausible deniability?
No, I know that's true. That's
all I
true.
can do is point out the symptoms, so to say. So, like I've said before, if people pay attention to the Havana syndrome symptoms list, anomalous health incidents. One of the things that I can put out there was my actual winter site manager, who went bonkers. Called for a medical evac during the dead of winter.
Oh, that was the woman you talked about.
Yes. So she was all over the news. So to me, that was an anomalous health incident situation. I believe that either from proximity to the systems that we were operating and or enemy returning fire, that we were caught in the crossfire, and I would put her as an example of the high probability of that suggestion. She was all over the national news, you know. So, and I love that anytime they talk about people in the program, they call them scientists. So she was a scientist. I was a scientist. The scientists at South Pole are looking for an evac. So she was all over the news. She was stating that she believed that she had a stroke. Basically, in real time, here's a person at the South Pole Station who, by the way, she literally was part of my hiring process. She was literally the person that sat me down to go through the paperwork, to go word by word, to clarify. Eric, you do realize that in this environment, there is no chance for evac. There are limited medical facilities. You sign this form in agreement that if anything goes wrong, you can't leave. So this person that did this paperwork with me, when she started calling for a medical evac, it blew my mind. I'm like, this is not possible right now. How can she think there's potential for evac? How can she gripe Raytheon saying they're stranding her here?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to what you're saying, Eric, as well, like this is all going to be used in concert with existing technologies as well. So we have to think about how they're going to, marry this program to the rest of the Department of War. I hate having to say Department of War. I remember when it was the Department of Defense, but
it was Department of War prior to being Department of Defense.
To that DOW now, but yeah, it's just to me, it's like they're going. Yeah, it's not going to be isolated, and I think a lot of the mind control operations that we see kind of tie in. I think that's their tie-in. They want to tie in the mind control with the directed energy weapons, if that makes sense. It would make the most sense to me, other than maybe like Air Force operations, that might also be, another very strong connection there. But yeah, 100% it's going to be all in
I just want to jump back to the winter site manager that I was discussing. So I completely believe that something happened to her. But looking at the big picture, right? She's someone who absolutely was aware there is no evac. But I also appreciate that if somebody is like scared enough, right? Like if you really think I'm hurt, I'm dying, I need help, all other rationale gets thrown out the window. So I do believe that something happened to her, that she did feel that badly. But she, we do have limited ability to do diagnosis at the medical clinic there. So I think she just started looking up symptoms to try to identify what she thought must be going on, and she landed on a stroke. She thought she had a stroke. So she was calling for a medical evac because she thought that's what was going on. Well, long story short, when she did eventually get off the ice with the first scheduled flight that departed, she went to the U.S. If I remember correctly, she went to Johns Hopkins University to get checked out. And the end result of their investigation into her health was she did not have a stroke. They said, we don't know what happened to her. This was back in 2010. So something did happen to her. Nobody knows what happened. It's almost like it was an anomalous health incident. A known level of illness with an unknown modality that caused it. It couldn't be defined. So I don't doubt
Now-
something happened.
I'm curious. Do you think she was personally read into everything that was actually going on there, or?
I think she would have been more read in than I, officially, for sure.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I like to look into different scientists and who are really smart, and they have just bizarre stuff happen to them with politics behind the scenes, or
I'll even
they
go
feel
so
they
far,
can't-
just for big picture stuff, for all of the accusations. So when I went to testify in the skiffs, I identified a location that was connected to Old Pole, which I suggested may have a functioning nuclear reactor that was installed prior to the Antarctic Treaty coming on, which would have prevented said stuff. And just in the legalese of contracts and how I'm familiar with them, potentially, if it existed before the treaty, it might have been grandfathered in as tolerated. The person that I'm talking about, the winter site manager, who went bonkers and wanted an evac and was there for the year that I was there. She was the winter site manager at South Pole in the United States Antarctic Program. In the civilian world, she was a nuclear power plant engineer that knows everything about how nuclear power plants run.
Of course. Yes. Who knows? Who knows what was really going on?
Right.
Wow. Very interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, all these programs fold into each other. That's what I'm trying to put out. It's like these things are not individual. Yeah, they're individual in their what would we call it, scope, but they're not individual in their.
If there happened to be a PM8 reactor at the South Pole station, providing the copious amounts of power for the directed energy weapons systems functioning there, her resume would support the value of her presence being there. You know, but I'm just a dumb plumber.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I've been working on a podcast on Bell Labs the past few weeks, and just looking at just the different scientists in there. And there's the official narrative over what they did, but all you have to do is have even a little bit of an open mind and just look at what happened with the rest of their life and what did they do and where did they go. And you can see, you know, one of the guys who was in charge of the transistor program, named Jack Morton, he was murdered in 1971 and set on fire in his car, and just there's no shortage of bizarre stories that we're supposed to just think, well, it was a coincidence, like the Clinton body count kind of stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's fascinating. Now when you, of course, were talking with your crew back in the South Pole, and, you know, you're kind of the one that stepped forward. So I assume, you know, you've talked with people who are definitely, obviously, more in the know. Do they ever elaborate on what that's like, or what the behind the scenes deal is, or are they pretty tight-lipped?
Well, I mean, in a general overview, the only reason that I am public is because of conversations that I've had with former crew members, post-deployment to the South Pole, who are negatively impacted medically and would like justice to be served.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's
It sucks when you find out how expendable you are on somebody's fucking Excel spreadsheet.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've never experienced anything like you, but I mean, I worked at a grocery store and I felt like just a number by this big organization. It feels terrible, you know. Nobody's losing sleep, whether it's a grocery store or the South Pole or the military. You know, nobody cares.
Right.
Know? So.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I see Gene laughing over there because I'm sure in Gene's world, I mean, he's probably, if I told him, if he hears another oil company speech about it's all about the safety of the worker, I'm sure he'll probably just puke in his Cheerios. They love saying how much it's all about everybody's safety. But then, that just means like we have a legal team that if 16 guys die on the rig, we've already pre-calculated the minimum amount of distribution checks that we believe that the family will accept. I mean, that's what they mean by we care. They've just already done the math already. 16 people dead. Let's the company the modus operandi would be we start out, we immediately offer everybody $150,000. And if they accept it, that means that they can no longer litigate. That means that probably 64% of them will accept the 150 grand. The rest will want to go to court. What we'll do is we'll try to plea bargain by giving them, we'll wait 1 month and we'll offer them 250. And then a percentage of them will take that because we care. And it's about safety.
That actually happened to my dad. My dad was lancing steel, cutting it with a torch, and he had a brand new fire retardant suit on, which caught on fire. It was terrible. Ruined his life, but my dad trusted the union because he paid his union dues.
Yeah.
And, they sued the company. They got all kinds of money, and my dad hardly got anything, and it ruined his life. And, I've worked in oil refineries, too. My father-in-law used to have a sandblasting and industrial painting business, so I would work in Imperial Oil. And it's funny, you weren't scared of getting blown up. You were scared of dropping your hammer and getting thrown out of the refinery forever.
Yep.
The safety standards. But they definitely was not because they care for humanity is why they were doing it. That's for sure.
It's funny. So my summer season at South Pole, and I've actually put pictures up of this. I should probably find them and put them up again because they're just funny. There was a big upfit that had to happen at the South Pole telescope. We had to swap out the bearings on it. And I became part of the team that was doing it. And at one point I got tasked with grinding off some supports that had been welded on. They got past that point so that I got myself, in the only position that I could fit with the grinder. And I had a helper, a general assistant with me, a guy from New York who was a great photographer. So I was like, bro, here, take my camera. I'm going to go up there, do some grinding and, try to get some pictures of me. So I couldn't be in any other position. So the way that I was oriented as I was grinding these, super thick steel tabs off, all the grinding slag was pretty much firing into my chest, which I thought I had an appropriate fire garment on. Turns out it was like some fucking Chinese black market version that apparently doesn't resist the heat. And all of a sudden, as I was grinding, I've been doing this a while, so the smell of the fire and stuff changed. I could smell a difference. And I looked down and I realized I had set my chest on fire. And I was up on a ladder. I was at altitude. There was nowhere that I could really go fast. And I remember looking down. The grinder was stopping. My chest was on fire, and I was looking at this guy Max, who had the camera, and the look on his face of terror. He was just I just Max, grab the grinder. I just started handing him, take this, take that, take this. And he's like, okay. And I was able to get down off the ladder, get my flaming garments off of me before it, fortunately I had so many layers on because of the cold temperature that it was my outer shell was burning, but it hadn't gotten to me yet. So it was just one of those things.
And it wasn't spotted by a safety guy, luckily?
Oh, it's so funny that you say that because I was still vying for my winter season contract. So now my vest that I still needed, even though it had this, it looked like I got shot by a stormtrooper, straight up. When I had the vest on, it looked like I got laser blasted by a stormtrooper. And our safety guy, we called him Reverend Al because he was very preachy about safety. He kept looking at my vest with fury. What the fuck did you do? And he would come up to me and he'd be like, are you going to tell me what happened? What did I miss? And I was like, Al, you should. It was the freakiest thing. I was in the smoke pit the other day. This is from a cigarette, Al. This is a smoking. This is not job related. I know you might think that.
Oh, that's true. The amount of paperwork you probably would have had to get out if you admitted it, and
God,
whatever else. Eh?
Yeah, and then I probably would have potentially knocked out my winter contract. So that was a smoking incident. Freak smoke pit accident. There I was trying to light my cigarette. Pow! This vest just fucking spontaneously combusted. It's the weirdest thing. You wouldn't think that could happen at minus 40 degrees.
No. You know, it's funny, when I would be working in the oil refinery helping my father-in-law out, and then I would go back to doing some residential construction that I was on, you get the difference of both worlds. And I don't know how you do it. I really didn't appreciate that. I always wanted to work in that big industry, but I found the freedom that I have just working and finishing somebody's basement or something is vastly different than the oppression working for these big, huge conglomerates.
Oh, I can totally appreciate the disparity there. Yes, one is like an oppressive workforce, like a step up from slavery. The other one is applying creativity. And yeah, it's two different worlds.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm actually like a landscape artist. I've always leaned that way. And I always thought big industry looked amazing. And it felt like I was in prison, you know? So you get used to it. And if the money's good enough, you just deal with it. And that's great. But it was definitely a good eye opener for me.
I can't begin to tell you how many times up in the Arctic oil fields in the man camps, like everybody just yields to like, it is like being in a prison camp. Like it's like, the food's probably a lot better, and technically you're getting paid, and you can leave at some point, but then you voluntarily go back to an environment that's very much just like a prison camp. Yeah,
no, I guess I'm a little too artsy for that to work for me, but
it's a challenging environment to function in. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's there's pros and cons to everything. The pros list for working rotationally in the oil fields is huge. It's great. The cons list is harsh.
Yeah. No, that's true.
It averages out to the positive, technically, but it doesn't deny that the cons list is very real.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like even my father-in-law, he made his fortune kind of working for Imperial Oil and different companies like that, and he was like, always, thank God I'm only in there a week here and a week there. He's like, it drains your soul.
It totally does, yeah.
But everyone has a path, I think, and what works for them. So
you just made me have a flashback. So I had a journal when I was at the South Pole that I had made entries on a daily basis, more or less, for a while. But then I still have that journal. I should probably do something with that at some point. But I did start to notice that my entries were becoming like more and more negative, and my last entry, I forget where I stopped writing. I think it might have been like July or August, going November to November. So like somewhere in the heart of the winter season, I made my last entry in the journal. It was something to the effect of like, every single day Mother Nature's trying to kill me, and she can't. So now I think she's coming for my soul.
Wow, that is dark.
Dude, it's a harsh fucking continent is the term that we use. And I've said before that, like, I would be out in the elements, and it was like that scene from Forrest Gump with Lieutenant Dan in the storm. screaming at Mother Nature, you want me, you come fucking. I did that shit. Like I would be out in the elements, and I to this day have a very different relationship with Mother Nature. You can call me a kook all you want, but as far as I was concerned, her and I got into arguments with great regularity. At the South Pole Station in the wintertime, she was trying to kill me, and I was fighting all of her untoward advances. And I vocalized it, screaming into the wind more times than I could count. And yeah, it got to that point where that journal entry was very accurate.
Wow. It's quite the resolve that you have. And obviously that's come out in that resolve of you're not going to plays out in many areas of your life, clearly. But, and even to steer this back to Iran, I read, I think in the past 6 months or so, that Iran is going to start setting up shop in South Pole as well. Have you read that?
I have not. That doesn't specifically at the South Pole or in Antarctica.
Well, I could be mistaken, but I'm sure I read that within the past year or so. That because like I mentioned with my family, they're all Zionists, and I didn't even know what that was until everything went down there. I started doing research and pleading with them to reconsider, their stance, and they're all upset with me. So I've been following it pretty close, and I do remember seeing something with Iran, and even there's a journalist called Pepe Escobar. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's quite a well-respected journalist, and after Iran had fired the missiles at Israel the first time, I remember just reading the history of Israel and how aggressive they are and very scrappy and threatening to use nukes a lot. I thought I would be surprised if they just try and lob a nuke over. And Pepe Escobar, he has contacts he says, in two very big Asian countries. And his contacts, both independently, confirmed to him that Israel had a F-22 or F-35, and it had a nuclear weapon on it. And they told him they were going to detonate it at altitude and create like an EMP attack on Iran because they were so upset. And Iran or somebody shot it down. And so I was like, I wouldn't be surprised. And he said, hey, I can't confirm it, but because independently his two rock solid sources in Asia said that, he feels that there may be something to that, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I find the topic of nuclear weapons and their potential application, I don't know the right words for this, and Gene may be able to help. So my understanding, all right, I did a short stint in the submarine service back in 1994, and I'm just going to impart upon you what was imparted upon me, and this was in a non-formal capacity, so no secrecy issues. Back in 1994, the environment that I was operating in, it was already understood. There will never, ever, 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 ever be a nuclear weapon fired at anyone. It's a song and dance to make things occur. It's narrative control. There are things that happen when these statements are made. It's a circus for the public. It's fear porn. And the only thing that I can say to support my position is that from 1994 until now, there's still yet to be a nuclear weapon utilized against anyone. And I would suggest it'll continue to occur, but the topic will be wielded as an incendiary topic. Thoughts on this, Gene?
Oh, is it okay if I say something?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't want to butt in. I just I did an episode last year. So I hear things in my sleep, psychic stuff here and there that throughout my life I have no control over, but they end up coming true at some point. And I was woke up out of my sleep 2 years ago with the phrase, "The reason the war is going on in the Middle East has something to do with Israel and the Ark of the Covenant." I don't know what the hell that means. But what I did is I explored ideas of what it could be on a podcast, and I came to the conclusion, just following the history and tracking it out, that nuclear weapons are a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt, and
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like the Nazis discovered, whether it's ancient tech or just technology in general, and that they detonated those two nuclear bombs, if they even did detonate them. I've heard I'm friends with a chemist who she's not 100% sure when she's looked into it that they were nukes, but whatever. And that they were used really to lock down the earth like a big COVID, just lock down the earth in fear and control people. So when you say, do you think they'll never detonate a nuke, do you think that that maybe we've been misled about what nukes are? Or that they just, through technology they can just make sure one never goes off?
All possibilities are on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to all of those options. It would take further research for me to come to a more tight conclusion. I'm just going to go back to my experience and my observation. From 1994 until now, from the time period that I learned nukes will never be used, nukes have never been used. But yet the conversation of them and the fear that it induces, and back to, all war is a racket. I think war, all the stuff that we're seeing, as far as I'm concerned, is a show. There's not there's no, like, all of the animosity and the things that we're being told publicly are the reasons for war are bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's propaganda that's put out to tolerate your pockets, my neighbor's pockets being fleeced to fund the untoward activities of corporations that are profiting off of the activities of war.
Oh, yeah, no, it becomes clear more and more every day. And I grew up loving the military, wishing there was a war I could have fought in. Shows you how undeveloped my brain was when I was younger.
It shows how powerful the propaganda machine is.
Yeah, because you want to do something with your life. I wanted to do something great and be a part of something. And eventually I realized I'm confident now there really isn't any bad guys. That it's all created. Like, it's part of their plan to distract humanity and pit us against each other. And
hey, look at me. Technically, I'm following the programming that I had when I was a kid. I watched G.I. Joe, and I learned about Cobra and the weather manipulation device that we need to stop.
Oh, that's right.
That was the first.
True.
That was the first G.I. Joe miniseries. Was that Cobra had a weather manipulation device that broke into pieces, and then there was a fight between G.I. Joe and Cobra to collect all the pieces.
Wow, well, it's funny. In 1994, I called up 1-800-USA-NAVY because I loved Tom Clancy and I wanted to be on a submarine.
There you go.
And they told me you're Canadian, you can't. And I was shocked. How could you not want to take me? I'm sure it was for the best, but that's funny.
Yeah, well, Tom Clancy's not really an author. He's a disseminator.
Well, I heard you mention that they told you of Hunt for Red October, which has been my lifelong favorite movie, that was more of a documentary?
It's just a true story, so therefore he didn't write it.
Oh.
Right?
Well, so are you familiar with the remote viewing story? Or there's a true remote viewing story around Hunt for Red October as well?
Yeah, Joe McMoneagle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the beginning of the movie, the Baldwin character is saying that we got intel from our source that in real life was Joe McMoneagle. That was the Red October was the submarine that he remote viewed again. So this isn't a fictional story written by Tom Clancy. It's a true story that was handed to him that he gets to stamp his name on as the author.
Mm-hmm.
So now reconsider that that's just simply a true story.
Wow.
Think of all of
Yeah,
his
no,
other
that's
books
amazing.
as dissemination of information. Think of the most important part of the story in the Hunt for Red October was the propulsion system of the Red October, which is the magneto-hydrodynamic drive, which I became familiar with in 1994. And look how many years later it is that the public is finally discussing this. I remember back in 1994 when I would get Liberty from base and I would show up to the train station on Long Island and I would get onto the platform. It was an elevated platform and I could look out over my neighborhood that I grew up in. And I would pause for about 15 or 20 minutes, sit there and have a cigarette before I would call a taxi to pick me up. And I would just pause and sit there and think in my head, none of these people know what's really going on in the world.
I would have loved that. That's amazing.
I would have to like refocus to be like, all right, I'm not on the base. I'm obligated to not discuss all the things that I now understand are actually happening in the world. And none of these people have a fucking clue what's really going on in the world, let alone under the water.
Wow. You know what's funny is there's a guy that he's an IT guy. He does internet stuff. The odd time I'll bump into him here and there at different jobs. And we got talking in August, and he mentioned he was in the military, combat engineer. And I was, back in the day, I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. Like, and then I'm like, my number one question I ask anyone is, did you ever see anything strange? Did you ever see a UFO? And he got deadly serious, and he said, I can't say anything except we were doing some type of acoustic technology in the Arctic. And he goes, and that's all I'm allowed to say. I have to take it with me to my grave.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what the heck? So like for you, do you still have things that you learned or did in the Navy that you can't say because publicly or
Oh, absolutely. The
Really?
Navy, the short window that I was in the Navy, I learned a lot. And
Wow.
in the grand scheme of my debrief, which was like a week long, bonkers, they said, you can say this about this, you can say this about that, but it was so not representative of like reality that when all was said and done, I basically just laughed at the instructor and was like, basically, the smartest thing I can do is shut my mouth, say nothing about anything. And then if anybody, like the one question that I always remember that I could laugh and answer, because people always ask, how deep can a submarine go? And the answer I was trained to respond with was, quote, in excess of 400 feet.
Oh, really?
That's the answer. Outside
Wow.
of answering that question, the debrief made it too complex to make it worth me engaging any other question and answer scenario.
Wow.
But yeah, there was tons. I was being taught everything about the Los Angeles class submarine and every system on it and how to repair it, operate it, short of the reactor.
Oh.
But I still got, let me put it this way, a keen understanding of the system, even though I wasn't officially trained on its operations, maintenance, or emergency mitigating procedures.
Wow. Now, I've heard conspiracy theories that some of those submarines are cold fusion or something like that. Like, I don't know if that's true or not. But even, I don't know if it was you or somebody mentioned the secret space program and how, if you think about it, if there's any, the submarine service, because it's vessels in space and you think of
Well, let's go back to the magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion system.
Right.
Ashton Forbes
Yeah.
put out a great video the other day that's an older video. I forget who was the person speaking, but there was a great conversation on the science of magnetohydrodynamic air propulsion systems. That you can have a magnetohydrodynamic drive to provide flight through the air in a way that doesn't require the standard engineering that we think of about, why can't I think of the word? Air surfaces and all of that stuff, thrust, lift, all of that stuff. It's just completely out the window. You can have things that don't necessarily look like planes at all because it's the MHD that's moving the thing through the air. Why can't I think of the word?
The Tic Tac, yeah, like the Tic Tac would be, it's basically a submarine that flies when they describe it.
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo.
Wow. Yeah, very mind.
Yeah, if you have an MHD drive in something, technically, according to the science, that means you can fly through the air with it.
Oh.
Remember recently there was within this last year, I think it was Lockheed or Boeing was publicizing and showing images of some sort of I think they called it like this manta ray thing that they were saying was a drone for underwater. Did you see those stories this year?
Yeah, you know what? I do remember that now, faintly,
Right?
yes.
So it kind of looks like a manta ray. They said that it was a submersible UAV. From what it looked like to me, there's a high probability that that thing could lift out of the water and go into the air. It looked like it had, that capacity. An MHD drive would allow for it to function in the water and in the air. And then when people would say, Eric, you're crazy, that's not possible. Well, cool. Go look up the Cormorant program, like the name of the bird.
Mm-hmm.
The Cormorant program is an unmanned aerial vehicle that can be deployed. It can be stuffed into the missile launch tubes. I think the vertical takeoff tubes, potentially the torpedo tubes also. I can't remember precisely. But the Cormorant program is an unmanned vehicle that deploys from a submarine that's underway, meaning moving underwater. It deploys while underway and can be retrieved while underway. So this thing can be ejected into the water, maneuver through the water, go up to the surface, go fly around, then come back, submerge itself, and be retrieved.
And people see them come up out of the water. Well, even New Jersey,
Chad,
December of 2024.
If they're making this program public now, is it possible that that's been going on for 20, 30, 40 years?
Oh, yes.
Right? Could it just simply be that they're lying about UFOs being anything to do with off-world activity? This, again, I keep saying what we're seeing is man-made tech. Not that there's nothing out there. It's just that's not what we're seeing. They're using the something out there as a cover story for what we're making. If you look up the Cormorant program, you tell me that if 40 years ago that thing popped out of the water, flew around and back into the water, that anybody would scream anything other than UFOs and aliens, you let me know.
And it was all after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
It was, so that's the thing. There's a girl that I've become friends with on Twitter. She's from Austin, and she's had Jack Sarfatti a couple times DMing her, and I don't know if he's got the wrong, and sending her just these formulas just about how about basically anti-gravity technology, and the idea of how basically removing mass without releasing the energy. And that's basically what what I understand is going on in the anti-gravity tech is that, and that's how you can go 17,000 miles an hour and make a right angle turn and not explode, you know? So,
Some people explain it in a way that it works well for my brain is don't think of gravity as we've been taught. Think of gravity as static electricity. Right? You're inclined to stick to the surface of the earth because of like a static electricity effect. So now if you think of it that way, it's also very easy to make a leap of logic to realize that you can interfere with that effect.
Yes.
It's so much easier to wrap your brain around it. And it's actually easy to consider when you start to understand electricity and static electricity and how, two things are almost entangled. Right, you can make something you could take a balloon, rub it on the carpet or whatever, and make things stick to it. They become entangled. So we can appreciate that dynamic can exist, and it's almost like, just think about it like you're born on this planet. You're already entangled to it. You're already in a static electricity relationship.
Yes.
Until it's interfered with, which certainly can occur just through the application of an additional type of energy that would interfere with the original relationship, and then that can be applied and removed.
That's true. And have you followed much of Eric Weinstein, just what he's complaining about in the science world? I don't know if you've ever heard much of him. I don't fully trust the guy, but what he says is very interesting, and I don't see anybody else saying it. And he talks about how he has this theory called geometric unity theory. It's his life's work, and it's one of those things they keep tucked under their belts, right, these scientists. And he's skeptical about sharing it publicly because I think it's very outside the box, and it's basically relating quantum mechanics with general relativity because it bridges the two together, and that's what they've always been trying to discover with string theory. And so Eric tells a story of how when he was working on this, and he didn't tell anyone in the entire world that he was working on it, he was still developing in the early 2000s, he had a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein because he was told by rich dudes that he knows, and actually he worked for Peter Thiel through investment stuff, that, because Jeffrey invested in science. So he met with Jeffrey Epstein, said it was the freakiest thing basically in his life, and that Jeffrey Epstein knew that he was working on geometric unity, and he understood it enough to explain to him what it was. And he said he's the only person in the world I've ever talked to about this. And I'm like, that's to me, that's showing that Jeffrey Epstein is like a scout for the breakaway civilization, and that whatever he was onto, they had discovered it, he thinks, possibly 40 years earlier.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the possibility of what you just laid on the table there in the slightest. I think those are the more headier conversations to consider.
Oh, yeah. And he said Jeffrey Epstein was very interested in gravity. And in, I think, 2006 or something, he had a gravity convention on an island near his island, and had I think Kip Thorne, the guy that wrote Interstellar, and a bunch of other, I think Stephen Hawking's too, and guys were there. They're very interested in gravity. And I think that, and what Eric implies is that, like Eric says, if his theory is correct, basically we don't even know what time is. It's very, very trippy. But yet, because he's so connected to Peter Thiel, it's hard to, I don't know. I'm in the societal nosebleed section, so I don't know how things really work.
Things are very weird. And my experience with the South Pole and this topic of gravity, I don't know if I've spoken about this publicly before. I have no reason not to. It's just that it's not necessarily been pertinent. I might have said this previously. I just can't recall. Obviously, I've said that the ELF system is up and running. and that was unbeknownst to most. I know who the person was that was operating that system and transferring the information when the satellite passes occur. In the tunnels, the ice tunnels below the South Pole Station, which there's miles of ice tunnels, when you first enter the tunnels from the main, what I would call the tunnels. So when you exit the elevated station going down, what's called the beer can, when you're going down to below grade, we have a main hallway that goes into what we would call like the logistics arch, the power plant arch. Those are the arches, and yes, even though they're below grade, that's not what I'm referring to as the tunnels. The tunnel system breaks off from the main hallways between the arches, and as you go into the ice tunnels, the first section that you go down, you walk all the way to the end, and then you have to make a left. But as you walk to the end and the tunnel continues on your left, you are presented with a piece of plywood that is actually blocking another tunnel. And there's a security camera at that junction in the tunnels that's observing that piece of plywood. It's the only camera in the entire facility watching something. That tunnel entry. On that piece of plywood is spray painted gravity tunnel. And the same person that runs the ELF experiment weapon, whatever you want to call it, that same person was tasked with whatever was going on in that gravity tunnel. And weird. That was something like, you know, a lot of people say, like, I should say, I've told a lot of people that I had access to every part of the facility. That was technically a part of the facility that I did not have immediate access to. But because I fucking rule, of course I made myself available to assist that technician when I found out he was going to be going in there. So I have also been in the super secure gravity tunnel.
Wow. Are you allowed to say any more than that, or?
All I can say is there's equipment in there that he was servicing. This is, you know, again, this is, you know, did I see everything in there? Yeah, absolutely. What do you get from seeing it? Nothing.
I know.
You know, it's like, yeah, I saw a bunch of wires and stuff like that. But, you know, again, like, you know, this is one of the things that I find hilarious when people challenge me on this stuff. Is that it's like, what do you think? When I was in the Ice Cube lab, there's rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of the biggest towers of servers you've ever seen in your life. I've seen them. What does that afford me from seeing it other than having an appreciation that there's the most retarded amount of computer power going on that makes not much sense?
Yeah.
Like this, you have to extrapolate appropriately from the information that's being given. But people will challenge me and be like, well, if you never connected a wire and looked into everything in there, then you must know nothing. And it's like, no, look at the facts that are presented. Look at the fact that there's so much processing power being applied, that so much heat is being generated in these rooms that they literally have to open louvers to let the exterior air temperature in to cool them down.
Yeah, and when it's minus 80 out.
Right. Like that's what it takes to keep this processing system from burning itself up.
Now, with those ice tunnels that you were in, were they kind of created for, or were they the ones that are supposed to be below the ice?
They were created, manufactured.
Okay. Yep.
If you ever want to see the way that the ice tunnels and what I refer to as the arches, there are videos out there from when Camp Century was created in Greenland. It is the exact same process and structure that Camp Century was built as.
Ah, that's well. Hey, speaking of Greenland, do you think there's anything weird going on with Greenland that Trump
1,000%.
may be interested? Oh, what's your insight on that?
Well, Camp Century was a fake science facility operating under false pretenses to install nuclear missiles. That's already known. That's the cat's been let out of that bag a long time ago. So now consider that in the late I think it was like 1967, that the tunnels and arches that were built in Greenland, which were a scientific psyop to put weapons in. Consider what I'm saying. It's cookie cutter. They took the exact same methods, brought them to the South Pole Station, and then started building the exact same thing and went up. Just another science project. Got another science project over here.
Oh, of course. Now, he's talking about the Golden Dome. What do you think that really is about?
Probably a really savage directed energy weapon system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Boy, strange. Strange where this is going. Are you familiar with Cliff High?
Yes.
What do you think of? I've followed him for a little while, and I found his webbot program's gotten a few things right. What do you think about that?
I think it's very interesting, the work that he has taken upon. It's, some things seem to hit the nail on the head pretty well. Other things, not so much. I have an appreciation for someone like Cliff, who has a very rich history of experiences, and a lot of his are similar to mine, which is kind of funny to me. But I have seen that Cliff has kind of been a supporter of the information that I've put out there and my suggestions as to what's going on. So I would say that, Cliff is a guy that I would say similarly to me is trying to get folks to engage topics that are a bit more complex and nefarious at the same time, that not enough people are paying attention to. That things are kind of, I think of like Cliff's work and my efforts to be similar in so far as that we're ringing the bell, so to say, that things are a lot worse than you've previously considered.
That's true. Yeah, he talks about how now we're in sci-fi world, and with all the, I know his webbot program saw years ago that it in a matter of 3 hours, whether it's figurative or whether it's literal, he wasn't sure that that Israel's completely finished militarily, and that the world is in shock. And I've heard him talk about that before. And I know I watched different independent military guys, and they all seem to agree that Iran could, completely finish Israel militarily in a very short time frame. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm certainly no expert in the militaries of the world and their potentials. But what I would say is that I'm an expert in propaganda being wielded, and I would suspect that, just simply being an American who's done little due diligence to get more informed on those topics than the propaganda machine has presented, my belief would be that in reality, things are most likely very different from what I've been led to believe. There's a lot of room for things being different than what I've been told.
Even there's a guy I listen to sometimes, Colonel is it Larry Wilkerson or something like that. He was chief of staff under Colin Powell. I mean, the guy's been very high up, and he said with the aircraft carriers, he's yelling at them that they're aircraft carriers. They're way too close to land, and that they're basically, it's known in the upper echelons of the military that they're dinosaurs, and that they could hit one with a hypersonic missile. They're sitting ducks, that they're the old age, and that he's afraid that they're going to find out the hard way, and just I'm like, wow, I've never heard that before. I would never, he said the only safe place in the ocean is on a submarine.
You were just reading my mind. Yes, it's the submarine forces that are the most powerful threat narrative. Again, threat narrative. When we talk about, aircraft carriers and their importance, it's their ability to deliver airplanes. So that brings us to the conversation that we hear for all the time from people. It's air power, air superiority. That's kind of weak because one submarine could wipe out an entire surface fleet pretty much with great ease. That would be a Los Angeles class attack submarine or something even more modern. Now you look at again, this is threat narrative. I'm sure you remember what I said earlier about the realities. But we're discussing the threat narrative of carriers versus submarines. So in this vein, one Trident nuclear ballistic missile submarine has the ability to launch all of its armaments and then have a spread pattern, right? So that as it unleashes everything from its tubes, that single Trident submarine could distribute, there's multiple warheads per missile that can be dropped intermittently. There could be a spread pattern applied to the United States that would allow the explosion, right? If you had every epicenter laid out, that the perimeter ring of the outermost portion of each warhead exploding, you could blanket the United States from one submarine to make it so that there's not 1 inch that's not impacted from a warhead. You could spread it out evenly against the whole country.
Man,
that's one submarine.
The power is in. Well, the Oreshnik missiles. Have you seen the videos of Russia's Oreshnik missiles coming down and hitting? It looks very different than the normal type.
I have not.
No, pretty freaky, and that's. I think it comes out like 8,000 miles an hour, and that's with. They said they don't have to put too big of warheads on them because they hit so hard. The destruction's insane, and they're saying Iran has their own type of these now potentially, and we're just seeing probably just the peanuts, the table scraps.
Oh, probably.
Stuff. So, boy, and now I'm interested. Apart from all the tragic of human life that would be lost or that is getting lost in this, but they're talking this may be more submarines that are going to launch an attack or be more of a naval battle against Iran. So who knows? Oh,
well, when we went from Desert Shield to Desert Storm, 99, I don't know if you were around when the news occurred and everything that was being shown on the news that they were calling airstrikes. It was not. It was submarines.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were basically, so what they did is they took a fistful of Navy SEALs that had more munition. These guys, it was like the 4th of July for them. It was their job to go to the beaches and make it look like there was a massive naval invasion occurring. These guys were just lighting off everything under the sun. And then the submarines were basically just coming into the shallows, surfacing, unleashing everything that they have, submerging, going back out, getting resupplied, coming back in, and it was just barrage of submarine activity.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
So then they soften up the environment before they actually send in the airframes.
Of course.
Because, again, think of the reach that a submarine has.
Yeah, that's
This
true.
is, again, so here's another interesting way of looking at it, right? 70% of the planet's covered by water. So right off the bat, submarines rock that, right?
Yes.
Right? Now, of the 30% of the world that remains that is land, and this is my understanding from way back in the day, I'm sure it's increased. Back then, the remaining 30%, it was something like 80% of that could still get hit by a submarine that's out in the water.
Wow. Yeah, that's
What's
well. Even sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So now compare that to air superiority. It's laughable.
Yes.
It's laughable. But this is where we focus
That's
everybody's
true.
attention, and nobody's discussing the silent service submarines.
Yes. Well.
Oh,
yeah,
and their
I guess
magneto-hydrodynamic drives that have been around since the release of the fictional book, The Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, emphasis on silent service, eh?
Correct.
Well, even when I was looking into 9/11, I never wanted to address the idea that it could have been an inside job or whatever happened with it. It was just too painful for me to consider. But when I finally did, I went down a rabbit hole on it, and I always use remote viewing as a source just to get to see what they saw. And I thought it was interesting because when it came to the Pentagon, what they saw was they had the word Popeye, and they saw something like a missile type thing or cylinder, that they call it, energetics and the different remote viewing terms they use. But what they described essentially was a missile hitting the Pentagon from the water with the word Popeye, and they noted at the end of it that Popeye is a missile that Israel shoots from their subs.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, wow, that's insane, So that submarines may have played a part in 9/11. Who knows,
Anything's possible. I mean, I defer back to legit Occam's razor. A lot of people get it wrong, but Occam's razor basically means that you put all possibility on the table to consider. All
Yes.
possibility. Then you take a razor, Occam's razor, and you slice off a sliver of that possibility. If you can negate it, you can throw it out and it's no longer possible. But if you cannot, then it has to stay on the table of possibility. I think too many people misconstrue Occam's razor, reducing too rapidly, and they just go to, Occam's razor means that whatever the simplest thing is the most likely outcome. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You forgot the whole process of slicing and assessing.
Yes. No, that's true. I had that a little while ago. I was looking at the guy Occam, William Occam, I think it was, and that whole idea. And basically, they use it to say, if we don't understand something, that's complex, so then they completely ignore it.
Right. They don't actually do the slicing and assessing. They just immediately jump to, whatever is the simplest thing that I can consider, it must be it, because that's Occam's razor. And it's like, go fuck yourself. That's not how it works. You first have to assess every possibility and attempt to negate. You can't skip that super important part of the process.
No, I agree 100%. And it's so unscientific, yet it's used by scientists. It's crazy.
It's used like a propaganda tool to get people to accept the simple stuff as it must be that. So I get a laugh out of this because as a tradesman, right, I think about servicing a boiler, right? The boiler's down. I can't tell you how many times I've seen technicians walk in and try to reduce it to the simplest thing possible, because don't get me wrong, the simple thing that's possible does happen all of the time. It's completely possible that it's the simplest thing. But if you don't assess the boiler and consider also the most complex things that could have occurred to cause the failure. You may waste your time trying to relight the pilot light when the pilot light is out and be like, obviously it's just the pilot light is out. Well, what if the gas meter outside seized up? You know, there could be more complexity. You don't just necessarily assume it's the simple thing because it's most likely the simple thing according to Occam's razor. No, you got to look at everything. Sometimes the answer is the most complex fucking thing you never would have considered.
You know, I agree. And I got in an argument with someone the other day, and I'm like, cult tactics and mind control are to take extremely complex things and down to just black or white. That's only this or that issues. And it, for some reason, it completely shuts down our critical thinking.
Oh yeah,
and I think
this or that I think is a tool that's applied. Yeah, it's to divide people and put them on sides, and this is where I would say like COINTELPRO type stuff, right? You have the left side and the right side, the margins of the paper, so to say, and then you have the text in the middle. And it's the purpose of the two margins to keep everybody bickering about the text in the middle. And if you get outside of the margins, then both sides attack you and say you're not discussing the text in the middle. So they absolutely want to make it this or that. They never want you to think outside and for yourself. I always think of the movie Half Baked, and I love the line where it's like, I think it's more complex than that, when they're discussing the history of the dog killer. Killer the dog was born the son, like, and then, you know, it finishes with, I think it's more complex than that. So anytime somebody tells me it's got to be this or that, I think it's hilarious, because it's like, do you really lack the imagination to consider a third, a fourth, a fifth, sixth, seventh option?
And we're all thinking this way with a shared common belief of what reality is, and reality's classified. So we're even starting from.
I refuse to allow the limits of somebody else's imagination be the boundary on the reality around me.
Great. Yeah, that's good. No, that's great. Hey, I have to get back to work.
Oh, no worries. It's been a fantastic chat, and actually, I am starving, and my friend is cooking something here that smells delicious, which is totally triggering my stomach. But thanks for joining in, Chad. Thanks for everybody here. I see you over there, Wolf. Hello. Anybody that's not following me, please give me a follow, a like, you know, all that fun stuff. And everybody have an excellent day. Catch you on the flip side and be well.
Thanks. See you, Eric.
You got it.